We're back.
We're back. It's felt like an eternity, but it's actually been less than a week. Or no, it's been a week. It was
Well,
Monday.
we did 2 episodes virtually,
Yeah,
and now we're back in person.
just Monday to Monday. We recorded last Monday, but it feels like it's been an eternity.
Yeah.
Once we get out of all the holiday shit, we back to Thursdays.
There wasn't too many games, but
Yeah.
last we recorded was it day before we went to the Detroit game?
No. We just went to the Detroit game
Yeah, yeah.
Friday.
Didn't we record earlier that week?
Yeah, Monday.
Okay.
Monday. They
Um,
played the afternoon game on the Monday.
welcome to Puck Yourself.
Yeah,
Um, decent amount to go through. This is a fun one because we've got some predictions. This is our New Year's resolutions
for 2025.
predictions
Yeah.
for 2025. Um, things seem to be kind of shifting in the league. A little dynamic. There's some teams that
Yep.
seemingly are making a bit of a step toward not sucking.
That's just very wishful thinking on your part for one specific team, but
Okay.
we'll get to that.
Okay.
Do we like the possible merch, people?
We've got Puck Yourself. So we both our families gave Puck Yourself merch.
Yeah.
So we've got a hat, a beautiful hat, and a t-shirt, and then my sister got me a sweater.
Yeah.
So
Jack has the same shit, but non-solidarity. He did not wear it.
yeah, I wasn't thinking.
Didn't he decided to actually dress like a human today though. Usually he's dressing his PJs for this, so
I'm doing my best.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm improving.
Yeah.
Let's dive into it because there's a decent amount to get through. I know the amount of predictions that you have is a little bit ungodly, so
Well,
let's get started.
we'll talk about the Leafs a little bit first. There's a little bit obviously there was no hockey, NHL hockey for 3 days
Yeah,
over the break.
yeah.
We'll get into that. There's a little bit of a CBA controversy in there, a little bit too, somewhere else in the league. The Leafs had a little bit of that. I think it was last year,
Yeah.
but yeah. So when we last recorded, they had played that afternoon, the Monday afternoon,
Yeah.
and then they hadn't played again until Friday, and we were at the game in Detroit on Friday.
Decent arena.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
a little bit of tough on the leg room for because we went with your dad, we went with our girlfriend's dad,
yeah.
and they were a
You're
little bit
never gonna
sore.
get,
It's never gonna be perfect. They're
especially
optimizing for space.
especially in upper bowl. Like you're not. It's a hockey rink. They're not optimizing for leg room.
I'm a big boy.
Well, when you're 6'3", 6'4", and your legs take up your whole body, trust
Yeah.
me, I get it. I
Yeah.
get the struggle, but
Um, good view. Like I
yeah,
found looking over being because we didn't have crazy seats, but it was like you still looking over, you didn't struggle for viewing the play.
no. I find that people maybe over dramatized a little bit the view at a hockey game in the upper bowl. Like it's not like a football stadium where there's 60,000 seats and
Yeah,
you're a million miles in the
you
air
can't see the
in the
ball.
fourth deck, right?
Yeah,
You can only have so many seats in an arena. So it's never going to be that terrible. And then it's a newer rink. So they kind of think of these things, right?
yeah.
So
Um,
I've been before. I'm assuming that was your first
that was
time.
my first time in Detroit.
Yeah. I've been to LCA before. Pre-COVID, I went to a Leafs game. And I don't think I've been back since. No, I have. My girlfriend and I and my dad went a couple of years ago. And we were in the lower bowl, actually.
Ooh,
Decent seats, yeah.
for a Leafs game.
Leafs game, yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's cool because you can see the play develop. It's
Yeah.
not just like what you're
Yeah.
capturing on the
Yeah.
TV. You're seeing a lot more of like those peripherals
Yeah.
develop,
Yeah.
which is really cool.
Which is what I found the difference between the Chicago game I went to 2 weeks ago
Yeah,
was when we were 5 rows off the glass. It's cool. It seems a lot faster. But you miss a lot of the stuff in corners. You can't like we couldn't see in the one in the right hand corner. You couldn't see the puck. I would literally have to look at the screen to see what was going on, right? Because
yeah.
you have two benches in front of you. So that's the one advantage of sitting up there. Like you say, you can kind of see things develop. instead
And
of just
and you got to shit talk under your breath a little bit of the Detroit fans.
yeah,
Your dad was loving that
yeah,
part. Good old Graham.
yeah.
Um, the guys played well. I mean, Detroit sucked. Detroit,
Detroit had a tough night.
they look like they don't know how to play with each other. Like they were just thrown together that night and had no idea who each other was, how they
Well,
like to play.
it's funny you say that. So the Leafs and the Wings played Friday. So the Leafs beat the Wings on Friday. The Caps beat the Leafs on Saturday, and the Wings beat the Caps on Sunday.
Yeah.
And they looked a lot better, the
They
Wings.
were
So
up like 2-3 nothing in the first
yeah.
period.
So
So I was rocking Charlie
it
Lindgren
was a
that
tough
night.
night. It was well we'll get to that in a bit. We're gonna try and stick to the Leaf stuff, but just the overall experience. It's nice to go see a
It
game.
was cool.
It's cool. Wish we could do it more often, but we're not rich, so
No. And that's why like we were looking at some of the other games and it was like way more reasonable
yeah,
when it's not a Leafs
yeah,
game. Um so maybe when it is like a Caps or a
yeah.
Pens or well we looked at the Pens ones,
The
but
Pens
they're
ones weren't cheap, but they were cheaper than Toronto.
yeah.
The Ottawa ones were really good. There were some San Jose ones in there that
Go
were
see
better
Brady.
price. Yeah,
We can go see Brady for pretty
yeah.
cheap.
The game itself, yeah, the Leafs dominated the first two
Yeah.
periods. And then it was kind of the same bullshit they do whenever they have a big lead in the third.
They get
They sit
defensive.
back and they just, you can't do that. And the
I
Wings,
understand the mentality or where the mentality comes from to defend the lead. Like let's make sure we're solid defensively. But you've got that lead by playing a certain way, and suddenly you
exactly.
switch it up, and it's just not.
We're not saying take stupid risks, do stupid things. We're saying you still need to be a little aggressive. We're not telling you to try and thread a pass through five guys from
Yeah,
your own hash marks here. Like,
yeah,
but heavy on the forecheck. Don't stop playing the way you played in the first two periods. You're supposed to, if you were that good defensively, you didn't allow a goal in the first two periods playing that way. What makes you think you're going to be bad in the third and playing it that way?
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
I, you know, anyway.
We spoke
Um,
about this a little bit.
yeah, we spoke about it a little bit. Um, it was Holmberg was up on the second line with Nylander and Nyes.
Yeah, which I
As
think
I mean, as obviously short term while Matthews is still out.
it was a curious choice because like that line overall was relatively quiet. Like that's not where the goal scoring came from.
I think the Monday game that I think they played Nashville. Matthews missed that game, so I think it was Tavares moved up to the first line, Domi moved up to the second line, Holmberg was third line, and it didn't really work. And I think they've we talked about it last week. Uh, Robertson, McMahon, and Domi have played well together. I don't think
Yeah,
he wanted to really break up that line, but he kind of
yeah,
felt the need to. And then he kind of said, "Listen, we're going to go back to that. It didn't work very well. Let's bring it back here." So
yeah.
Domi went back with McMahon and Robertson, and they weren't amazing. They weren't terrible. And that second line was a little quiet. And not Nyes has had a little bit of a tough week. He hasn't looked terrific this week,
No,
if I'm being honest.
he's been calm for a couple weeks.
Yeah, but like bad mistakes this week.
Yeah.
And Berube was giving it to him in the media a little bit. And he's a young guy. He's gonna go through stuff, right?
When you're on for example, the first line
Yeah,
and second line, there are high
yeah,
expectations. It's not
exactly.
irregular.
Yeah,
And Berube's shown throughout the season he keeps players accountable.
yeah,
Doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter how young you are,
yeah.
doesn't matter if you're a superstar, if you're a nobody. And Matthew Nyes is somewhere in the middle there.
We've been we've given Nyes a lot of praise this year, but he
Hmm.
hasn't played well. We have talked about it. Even when the production isn't there, his game is still he still does the right things.
Yep.
This week there were a couple things that are like, okay, sharpen up a bit here. Maybe it's the dog days of the season. You're in the middle of the season. It's a game 37, whatever, and it's kind of just like slogging through, right?
The honeymoon phase of the
Yeah,
season is kind of over.
yeah.
The playoff hype
It's
isn't
just a
quite here
yeah,
yet.
exactly. You're just kind of like you got to push through it just to get to the playoffs at this point. It's pretty safe to say that the Leafs are going to be in playoffs. So
It's this weird lull period.
yeah, yeah. Um, so yeah, especially on the goal. I think that was the Wings' second goal. They scored with an empty net, I believe.
Uh,
No, they didn't pull a
no,
goalie. They
they
didn't
never
pull a
pulled. They
goalie.
never pulled.
They were on a power play, I believe.
Yeah.
It was the first goal. It was the first goal. I'm reading it here. It was the first goal. They were on that power play, and they were kind of getting hemmed in. And Nyes had a really good, and Wall had made a couple decent saves. There was a couple block shots in there, and Nyes had a very clear opportunity to get the puck down the ice, and
In
he kind
from
of
the
sat
corner.
on it, chipped it up the boards. Like, okay, you had the space, rim it around the boards, get the
If I
change.
recall, he even cut back.
He
He
did,
didn't
yeah,
even attempt to get
yeah,
it
he
out.
did,
And he had the opportunity, and it was
yeah,
like, this isn't a possession
yeah,
moment. This isn't a cycle the puck in your
yeah,
own zone. This is a you need to get it out because
yeah.
like you've just had
You're
Wall make some.
shorthanded.
Yeah,
Let's just get the change here.
yeah.
It's a third period. It's a short change. You can get it.
Bizarre choice. You live and you learn. You hope you learn from
Yeah,
those
yeah.
mistakes,
Tough week.
and you make the mistakes now. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'd far prefer this than game one.
yeah, exactly.
So that's
And you
fine.
do it now, and we correct it, right? Obviously, the big story of that night was Mitch Marner's natural hat trick. I believe they said it was his third career hat trick, something like that.
Some sick plays.
Yeah, the tip was that was a nice tip
That was a great tip.
to score the hat trick, and the first goal, Tavares with the nice behind the between the legs
Feed, yeah.
feed. He kind of saw him the instinct there with Tavares,
I don't even know if he saw him. I don't know how he knew.
just peripheral.
It was
Yeah,
completely behind him.
yeah, yeah. And that's we've talked about it, Tavares' resurgence a lot, and obviously the way he plays will allow him to be still semi-successful as he gets older
Yeah.
because he's never been a player that's been overly reliant on speed and uh, high end stick handling ability, tons of talent, tons of skill, talented player. But his game is around intangibles. It's around the cycle. It's around winning draws in and around the net. So that's stuff you can still do at that age.
The chemistry for like he's seemingly finding chemistry
Yeah,
with a lot of different
with different
players,
players, exactly.
which is really cool to
He
see.
hasn't had a problem playing with Nylander in the second line, and when
No.
Matthews is out, he hasn't had a problem playing with Marner on the first line. So
Mm.
yeah, Nyes has kind of floated between both lines. He's played well with Nyes. Um, and he's kind of, if you would have said at the beginning of the season, there's probably one player out of those 4 or 5 players that would get demoted to PP2 if you wanted to separate them, he probably would have been on the first on the
Yeah.
list.
Yeah.
But he's played so well, he hasn't allowed it to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Earning his way
yeah,
onto that role, earning his way into like another contract
yeah,
negotiation. Um, he's proving it.
yeah.
Both of them are.
So obviously that was a nice assist by Tavares, and then the Marner's second goal was that power play, kind of tic tac toe, Tavares, Nylander, Marner, and he kind of had an empty net there
Yeah.
and finished it off. I didn't. Talbot didn't look. Not that anything was like really bad on his part, but he
There,
didn't look terrific to
he
me.
didn't look good and he wasn't getting any help, which
Yeah,
makes him look even
even
worse.
worse. Yeah. And then Robertson did end up getting one.
Yeah.
So that third line did end up getting one goal. Yeah, yeah. Listen, I'm not rooting against Nick. We've been a little critical.
And I don't even think
It's
it's like overly critical. It's
yeah,
where does he fit?
yeah.
It's
It's
it's not a criticism of the player, it's a team dynamics
yeah, yeah,
conversation.
yeah. Long term, do we see him being here? And when we talk into the World Juniors a little bit, we'll dive into that
Okay.
part of like the game a little bit, how it's gone differently because of Canada's struggles with the World Juniors over the last couple of years. Um, but sticking with the Leafs, I want Robertson to be successful, whether it's here or elsewhere. Elsewhere, I think he's a good, talented player. I just don't see he isn't high end enough for him to crack our top six,
Yeah.
and he doesn't have intangible stuff that stands out in his game for him to be a reliable bottom six player come playoff time.
It just doesn't
Yeah,
work.
he
It
was
doesn't make
he
sense.
was been scratched in and out. He was scratched for 3 or 4 games in a
3
row
games.
before they brought him back, and it just that chem on that line has seemed to work out since then.
Mhm.
But before that, there wasn't a lot going on. So hopefully he keeps this up, and then either finds a role on this team or gets his move and is successful elsewhere.
Mhm.
But for the time being, that line is playing well. There's tons of speed on that line.
Take it.
We'll keep it coming as far as the momentum will take us, right? It's only December, so almost January now, but we still have a good
Yeah.
3.5 months until playoffs start here. So
Yeah.
we got a lot of time to go. Hopefully the Ken can stay. But yeah, the first line was by far the best line. Again, I've been very impressed with Pacioretty. I've actually been more impressed with Pacioretty since he came back from injury than I was before.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually. I
Interesting.
find him he was physical before, but he's even more
Yeah.
physical now.
That was one thing I
And
noticed.
he's just like changed his game as he got older. He realized he's not the guy we talk. I know we spoke about this last week, but we saw them play live, so it's a little different.
This isn't Montreal Canadiens Pacioretty.
Yeah,
This is a new form.
end of career. He's had a lot of injury issues.
I'm gonna do what's asked of me and what
Yeah,
my job on this
yeah,
team is going to
and
be.
it's gonna keep him in the like. It's gonna keep him around
And every
longer.
once in a while, he gets an assist or a goal.
Yeah, exactly,
Fantastic.
exactly. It was nice to see the fourth line get a goal as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, it was Dewar and Camp on the fourth line, so two centers on the fourth line. And Lawrence can play center as well, so
Yeah.
three centers actually.
Yeah.
Um, but I thought that line actually did well.
Yeah.
They kind of kept the play in the wings end when they were on the ice. Uh, they didn't seem to struggle to break out of their own end.
What I like about our fourth line is they're physical. They're really good at
The
forechecking.
forecheck,
The
yeah.
forecheck is unbelievable.
Well, it's
Like,
a lot better when Reeves isn't in the lineup.
yeah, for a
Yeah,
fourth line, they
yeah,
have speed.
yeah,
They have
yeah.
speed, physicality,
Which
and
is
pressure.
what the
It's
fourth line is now.
exactly
This
what
is
you
exactly
want it to be.
it's what third and fourth lines are now.
It's no longer just a bunch
Yeah,
of goons.
it's you need to be physical, but you need to be able to move.
Yeah.
Forecheck, that's what it is, right? Um, yeah, and they played well, and even Lawrence, like he's played his way into pretty much saying like we're never gonna healthy scratch this guy, and he was a healthy scratch a lot for Florida last year.
Yeah.
So good for him. He got an assist there. Camp got the goal. The Wings obviously made that little push in the third. That was
Yeah.
probably more so on the Leafs sitting back than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, good experience.
Wool played well.
Well,
They're for having 4 shots on him in the second period
yeah,
to then be asked to
he
make the
stepped up
saves that he
big in the
had to.
third. He made a couple good saves in the first as well.
Yeah.
Um,
None of the goals that got through I really
no,
put on him.
they were not on him. I I have raved about Wall since he's been in Toronto. I've always enjoyed watching him play. We've spoken about him a little bit this year, and the 1-2 tandem with Stolars has looked great.
Mhm.
If he can stay healthy, this is going to be our goalie for a long, long time.
Yeah. It still feels like, okay, is he a glass cannon or not? But he seems to be being durable. He's taken some knocks and he's been okay.
Healthy Joseph Wall is a terrific goaltender.
Mhm.
I love watching him play.
Yeah.
I haven't felt this way about a goalie. Freddie, yes, but Freddie was more so end of career. Well, not end of career, but middle of career. He didn't come through our system we traded for him, right? Just like Belfour, we traded for Joseph, we traded for. The Leafs have never like really developed a
Developed.
goalie and brought him through, and he's become their guy, right?
Going through the Marlies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's never really been that for the Leafs,
Yeah.
at least in our generation. Like it's been
No one comes to
yeah.
mind.
Like I don't think Felix Potvin even.
No idea who that is.
Felix Potvin was the Leafs goalie in the early '90s when they had a good team.
Okay, this is why I don't know who he is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Jack's long-term hockey knowledge being
2001.
showcased here.
2001.
Yeah.
Anything before then is
Yeah.
pretty not good.
Anyway, point being, like, I love to see us actually develop a goalie. We've heard throughout the years, all the goalies we've traded that we've had, they traded Rask in an effort to bring Raycroft in. They've traded other goalies that maybe hadn't panned out, but maybe they would have. You never know.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so hopefully that sticks because everything about him, I love the way he plays. It's just so natural.
He's fluid. He
Yeah,
just looks so comfortable
yeah. There's
and
no
composed.
panic in his game.
No.
Okay, that was the Friday night. We went to the game. We had a good time. Probably go again next year, right?
Yeah, I'd like to.
Saturday we were at home against Washington. We missed the first period. We were at the same holiday party.
Um,
They
I
they
was
were up
saying
one
this in the
nothing.
car ride back from Detroit. This was going to be a lamb to slaughter.
Jack was really pissed that Murray started against Washington and not
I
against
have
Detroit.
no idea why. I mean, maybe it's just because you were looking to secure the wins, get Woolen with Detroit. I think Leafs were always going to be heavy favorites against Detroit. But putting in Murray, a guy who's had one NHL game this year and isn't necessarily like super warm to the league at this point, to put him in against the offensive talent on Washington, I just felt was like
See,
asking too much, especially in a back to back.
see, um, what you see around the league a lot now is the teams seem to put their starter in the first night, no matter what the matchups are. That's what it seems to be.
Yeah. Which I don't know what the bias is.
I don't know why, but that's just kind of how it goes.
Yeah, which whatever.
Yeah,
Maybe they've got some inside knowledge
yeah.
that
And like,
perspective that I
listen,
just
it's
don't
the
get.
NHL. People may think there's easy games. There's no easy games in the NHL.
No,
The worst team in the league is still a hard team to play against. You still need to come out and play.
people lose. Edmonton lost to Anaheim.
We lost to the Wings 2 weeks ago
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Detroit.
So
There's no,
it's still an any
yeah.
given night game and an any given night league.
And you know
It
what?
just seemed bizarre to me.
You talk about that, but since Ovi's been out, Washington has struggled to score 5-on-5.
Yeah,
There's
they've
some
still been
underlying
getting the
stuff.
job done
They've
though.
actually been better on the power play, but worse 5-on-5.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, Ovi's made quite the return.
Ovi, that was Ovi's first game back on Saturday night though against the Leafs there.
Yeah,
So obviously he was in that game. He got the empty netter there, and then he scored another one
last night.
last night against the Wings.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, we weren't like really watching because we were kind of,
socializing.
yeah, trying to socialize. But it didn't look good from the
No,
parts that I saw.
it was tough. It was a back to back
Yeah,
after kind of a really confident win,
yeah.
and Washington hadn't played the night
And
before.
Washington's a tough out.
So it was to me this was always going to be lamb to
And
slaughter.
Thompson,
Showed up.
Thompson played well. Yeah, Washington's not going to be an easy out, especially if Ovi's healthy.
Hmm.
And Dubois is playing really well lately. Tom Wilson's playing really well
I love
lately.
McMichael.
McMichael's buzzing.
I think he's so talented.
Strome's a good player.
Hmm.
They just this guy's an absolute tree. When we went to the game in Chicago against Washington, that guy's massive,
Yeah,
like absolutely ginormous.
and they've got just both options in net.
Yep. And Lindgren, oh,
When Lindgren's on, he's
yeah,
really good.
Lindgren was really good last year.
He beat the Leafs when we played them not recently, the game
Yeah,
before. He played
um,
really well.
and yeah. Honestly, they're probably competing with us as one of the best 1-2 tandems in the league right
Yeah.
now. Yeah, not terrific. Again, no Matthews. We're kind of seeing it. People were kind of saying, "Oh, like we were fine without Matthews last time." We're kind of seeing a little bit of a
Yes,
struggle
you
some
miss him.
nights without Matthews this time around.
Just to have that option. Like I
Yeah,
get it. It's great to see the team
yeah,
rise to the occasion, but you want him in there
yeah,
because he can
yeah.
take control of a game and be a massive
And it's not
difference
even just
maker.
like even when he's not scoring, it's just they're just things that he does. He's very good defensively,
Hmm.
and even if he's not scoring, there's going to be a lot of him and Marner or him and Nylander on the
Even
ice at the same time. There's going to be a lot of puck possession.
puck possession and
Yeah,
even just drawing the defense to him,
yeah,
opening
exactly.
up other
Yeah,
options. His presence makes other guys more open.
yeah. So yeah, um, I didn't really have a lot of other notes other than to look at the games and and Matthews being out.
Yeah, that sucks.
Um, maybe a couple things that we saw live for me. Um, for me it was really cool to see Pat Kane play live. I've never seen Pat Kane play live. I know it's the end of his career, so it's not the same Pat
Hmm.
Kane, but just a really smart player, kind of similar to what Nylander is, or Nylander similar to Kane, I guess, because Kane's older. But they just kind of like it looks effortless.
It was interesting
They
because
just see the game very easily.
there's no wasted effort.
Yeah,
They don't.
yeah,
They're not the ones sprinting down the
yeah,
ice, but looking at them, you'd think like they're very casual.
Yeah.
They're still flying.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The hands
Yeah.
are
Like
unbelievable.
Kane made one pass. They set up the one pass. He was looking the complete other direction, eyes in the back of his head, and then
Yeah,
Wall just made a good save. So yeah, it was cool. I really enjoyed watching him play live,
yeah,
even if it is the end of his career. Just a very intelligent player
yeah.
and one of the best of his generation. Probably right now, probably the best American hockey player of all time, I'd say. At this point, Matthews could overtake that eventually, but at this point,
Eventually, but not yet.
but not yet. No.
Yeah. Great washroom setup at the Detroit arena. Very efficient.
That
Lots of options.
that's your thoughts on that?
I just thought it was a great little addition.
Yeah.
You'll never struggle.
Yeah.
You might be in a line for a little bit. You'll get in there.
Yeah. Yeah, the setup is kind of cool. They kind of have the escalator to get up, so you're not climbing stairs or
Mhm.
waiting a half an hour for an elevator.
Yeah.
Um, we've spoken about Tanev a lot this year, but even in person, I just like I can't believe the defensive side of his game is like what everyone knows, and he's great at it. But the breakout, I can't believe how good he is on the breakout. It's so simple, but nobody else does it
Yeah.
on our team.
It's reliable. It's
Yeah,
consistent. It feels good.
yeah,
It feels like a lot of the things that you've complained about for 15 years
yeah.
with the Leafs are like falling
It
silent at
gives
this
me a
point.
little bit of confidence come playoff time. A big thing we've struggled with is breakouts.
Yeah, because teams forecheck a lot.
Yeah,
They clog up the neutral
so it makes
zone.
you feel a little more comfortable.
Yeah.
Outside of him, obviously Marner had a really great night, so
Hmm.
that worked out. Nylander kind of the same boat as Kane. It's nice. It's very cool to see a player live like that. That
Um.
you appreciate a lot more live
Yeah.
than you do on TV,
Yeah.
where it's kind of just like it's stupid how
Yeah.
effortless it is.
Yeah. Benoit took, I don't know if it was a stick or a puck to a place where the sun don't
Yeah,
shine,
yeah,
and
yeah,
to see him have to jump and shake it off and nearly throw up on the
yeah,
bench because of it was
yeah. And he got stuck on the ice too.
that was brutal.
He
I
got
thought I
stuck on
thought
the
he was
ice
gonna
too.
puke.
Yeah.
And then there was a tussle. There was a tussle at one point. I forget who it was with. Probably Tom Wilson, that little shit disturber.
No, Wilson has the bubble on right now because of his face.
Can't remember who the tussle was with
Yeah,
then. But anyway, fun game.
That was the Washington game.
Fun game.
That was
Right.
not the Detroit
Sorry,
game. Yeah,
confusing. Who did they get
yeah.
into it with?
I don't think there was a fight that night.
There's a tussle.
Not in the Wings
Oh, there's a
game.
little dust up in the Wings game. It
Okay.
wasn't like it wasn't a drop the gloves, but it was there.
Oh yeah, there might have been
I want to
that.
say it was some end of period action. That was fun.
Outside of that, anyone else you were impressed with, or even on the you could be on the Wings?
Um, Honestly, no. Like not on the Wings.
No.
There was
Yeah.
nobody. There was no redeeming like real qualities on the Wings. Larkin had a nice like game on on some plays.
I didn't notice him a lot.
None of them stood out.
Yeah.
And that's why like the comment about like they looked as if they had no idea who each other
Yeah.
was or how to play together,
Yeah.
that's genuine. That's not like
Yeah.
hyperbole. That is they had absolute clappers as passes that they couldn't control. They were making passes to as guys were skating away and missing them. It was a brutal showing from Detroit. Like I get they won against Washington the next day, whatever it was,
Two
or
days. Yeah.
2 days later, which is great. That's an accomplishment. But that night,
Yeah.
oh my, like 50% of the stadium was Leafs fans, and the Red Wings fans were
Yeah.
silent because there was
Yeah.
nothing to cheer for.
Um, yeah, I think you can kind of, I mean, I know they've been struggling, but you can kind of chalk it up. It's one night. It's the new
Yeah.
coach's first game. Maybe bet it in a
I
little bit.
I something I did find curious was they never pulled a goalie.
Yeah, yeah, that was a little strange to me too.
They were
Yeah,
getting some momentum. They had two
yeah,
goals in the third,
yeah.
and they never
That was
did
a little
it.
strange.
I thought they would at least take a shot at one.
Yeah, you might as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a little weird too. One player I didn't like, he wasn't terrific, but you can see things in his game. It's not obviously not a big time show here, but Cider. looks like
Yeah.
a really good player.
Yeah.
There was a couple of times he kind of got the puck on the blue line, maybe a little shimmy, just very smooth with it, and it's like it kind of reminds you of players. No, I'm not saying he's this good, but it's like a Makar Hughes thing. I'm not saying he's
Whoa.
this good, but I'm
Whoa.
saying
That's high praise.
for a guy that size, the only other defenseman you can kind of think of that might be that silky smooth on the blue line that's not big is Darlene,
Yeah. Good. Yeah, good comparison.
right? That's the only other player you can really think of. Um, so I think yeah, Sider will be. He had a lot of hype after his rookie year. He was really good in his rookie year, and it kind of slowed down after that. Maybe offensively the numbers, but as a defenseman you can't expect elite numbers every season, right? Unless you're like the two players we just mentioned, Makar Hughes. But he's a big guy. He can skate. He's pretty smooth,
Yeah.
decent hands. He'll be a very good defenseman, whether it's with the Wings or not, because who knows what's going to happen there with everything that's going on there.
He's a very efficient output guy. He
Yeah,
does everything.
yeah, yeah. Two
He's
way.
yeah, very good two-way
Maybe,
player.
maybe, maybe Hedman is a poor man's Hedman is the comparison.
Yeah, that'd be a good one.
Give him some time because it took Hedman a bit
Yeah.
at the beginning of his career. It took him a bit, but once he got there, he was the best defenseman in the NHL at one point
Yeah.
for a good chunk of time.
Hmm.
So maybe that is the comparison.
Edvinson was decent.
I think Edmondson
He
got
was
their
the one with
second
the
goal.
goal. Yeah.
Yeah,
He was good. He's
yeah.
big. He's tall.
Well, since we're on the Wings, Detroit before the Leafs game the other night, Detroit fired head coach Derek Lalonde and
By
assistant coach Bob Bugner, and immediately hired Todd McClellan, who has been around the league a while. He's been around the league a ton, and is has a good reputation
hmm
around the league.
What was his most recent team?
I want to say it was L.A. I believe he was
Okay.
there last
Because
year.
I'm not super
I don't know if it was
familiar with
last year
him.
or if it was the year before.
So is he just bouncing around a decent amount? Because like I
Yes, it was L.A. last. Was I know it was L.A., but it was last year. I wasn't sure if
okay.
it was last year or the year before.
Okay.
Uh, he was an assistant in Detroit previously under Babcock.
Oh boy.
He coached the Sharks for a long time in those years where they were really good. Thornton, Marlowe,
Okay.
Heatley, guys like that. And then he was in Edmonton for McDavid's early years,
Okay.
and they weren't very good. So he lost his job, and then he's been with LA for the past 5 or 6, kind of part of the retool process where LA kind of lost that previous generation, bringing the new guys in, and they were semi-successful for what he had at his
Yeah.
disposal, right?
Yeah. They
Yeah,
were the ones who were big, clog up the neutral
yep,
zone that everyone
yeah.
hated.
So he has a decent pedigree. The Sharks are one of the better
If you're
teams.
talking Sharks with Danny Heatley, that is a decent time ago.
Oh yeah, it's a lot. It's a while ago. But I'm saying like peak Thornton, peak Marlowe,
Yeah.
like the early Pavelski Couture days, right? Like
Yeah.
they were a good team. Dan
Yeah.
Boyle, guys like that.
Well, oh my.
Um, and they were one of the best teams in the NHL, honestly. And it's just
Yeah.
too bad they never won a cup, but
They were close to winning a cup.
they made a final. They lost to Sid the one year.
Right.
I'll notice I always say Sid. I don't say Pittsburgh. I say Sid. But
Um,
yeah, I kind of felt inevitable at some point. It wasn't going well.
no, it's still not.
Yeah.
So
It's only been 2 games, so you
see
got
what
to do.
happens. A coaching shakeup can mean a lot.
Yeah,
Look at what you've done with Edmonton when they had
yeah,
their changeover last year. Look what Berube's done
yeah.
in Toronto. I know that's like a little bit simplified for Toronto specifically, but having no pieces changed,
Yeah.
coaching change last year with Edmonton made all the difference.
Eiserman's running up borrowed time here, so something's got to give
Yeah,
because Eiserman, if he wasn't who he is in that
he'd
city,
already be gone.
probably would be gone already.
50% of your seats were Leafs.
That's
I get it. People aren't showing up to your
I've
games.
been to Leafs Wings games when the Wings were one of the best teams in the league and the Leafs were shit. It was still 50-50, trust me.
Okay.
So That's kind of just a location thing. It's the easiest for all the Leafs fans in from like London to Windsor.
Way easier than
It's
Toronto.
way easier to get to Toronto, right?
Last thing about the game, parking. Oh my gosh, there's parking available.
That's just Jack is from Toronto. Not from Toronto, but close to Toronto. That's
Close
the
to Toronto, lived in Toronto for a little bit.
only place he's been
There's
exposed to in
parking
pro sports.
next to the arena.
That's
Unbelievable.
called like every
Thank
city.
goodness. Thank you, Detroit City.
That's every city.
I'll take it.
Chicago,
I
the
just
parking
want to
lot is
compliment
literally
them.
directly across the street.
I want to compliment them.
Yeah,
And they take Cash App.
yeah,
Cash
yeah.
App if you want.
When you ask the guy 10 times, "Do you take cash?" and he says "Cash App"
Cash App?
15 times, but no other words.
Thought your dad was going to kidnap this guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, what's
Okay.
next?
Outside of that, we're done with there. You got nothing else there?
No,
No
it was
other
a fun game. I really
no other
enjoyed it.
bathroom notes or anything?
Um,
That was rhetorical.
okay. You ask me questions, I'm going to take them seriously.
Nobody wants to know what you do in the shitter, all right? Okay. Not a ton of NHL news this week because everyone's been off and there's a trade freeze and all that. But Colorado has extended Mackenzie Blackwood
5 years.
5 years, 26.25 million, which comes out to 5.25 AAV.
And like re-signed him after only playing a handful of games
Yeah,
for them.
obviously they're big on him.
They're confident in his
Yeah,
play, and he's played well with them.
yeah,
So
he's
you
been
know what?
solid.
Why not?
Yeah,
It's tough to find good goaltending
yeah.
if you have a guy that
The
you
Avs have struggled with it.
and as we've discussed many times, it doesn't need to be hands down goals like absolute shutdown goaltending. It
No,
just needs to be
no.
good enough.
Yeah,
And when you have
you just have to not lose your team the game.
a team like that too,
Yeah,
you have Nathan McKinnon, you have Kel McCarr,
yeah.
you have Lehkonen, you have like a decent amount of offense written in.
Ton of offense.
You just need to be good enough because you're going to score a bunch of goals anyway.
Yeah. So it's a decent piece of business. Um, is it a little higher than what you would expect for someone who hasn't
Thought so.
played at that high of a level for long enough yet? Maybe
It was a higher number.
he's a young guy, so it could work out,
Yeah, it was I felt it to be a little bit high.
but not too high that it was like such a stretch that like okay maybe it's worth a shot
It
because he's
wasn't into
younger.
the sixes or the sevens, whatever. Five isn't
Yeah,
outrageous. You're like,
yeah.
okay, fine, if that's what it took to get him locked up.
28 as a goalie is still fairly young, so
Still flirting with your
yeah,
prime.
yeah,
See what happens.
yeah.
Maybe this looks like a genius decision in
It could
three
work out.
years.
It could work out. Okay. Outside of there, we touched on a little bit, but 40 days. This is 40 days after breaking his leg. Alex Ovechkin is back.
Is it stem cells? What the heck is it?
It's the Russian gas.
What? How do you break your leg and a month and a change later you're fine and playing in the NHL?
Um, yeah. They did say 4 to 6 weeks, I believe. Or was it?
What
No, I think it
babushka
was 6 to 8.
was feeding this man?
Yeah. Well, you know.
Is it potato? Is it grape leaves?
And he's coming out gunning too. 2-2 in his first 2 games
Just
back.
chomping frozen fish?
Yeah. You know.
Is it seal highliners?
Maybe Ovi has had injuries throughout his career. We just don't know about it because he just plays through it because he's just an
Highliner
absolute
fish
beaut.
sticks is unbelievable.
Yeah,
And scoring already.
yeah.
Not no.
Granted, one was an empty netter, but quick stat: Ovi's all-time leader in empty net goals.
He's now sub 30.
So yeah, pretty crazy. Obviously, I almost got to see him in Chicago.
Almost.
He wasn't too far off. So
He just needed a haircut and he was
yeah,
set. Oh well.
yeah, that's pretty insane. Maybe I might touch on Ovi a little bit in my 2025 predictions. I don't know about you.
Whoa.
I might touch on Ovi a little
Okay.
bit. To Ovi's main rival, we go.
Sidney Crosby.
Sidney Crosby has passed Mario Lemieux for the most assists in Pittsburgh Penguins history.
Wow.
So that's two very big names, two of the best that have ever played. And Pittsburgh has been lucky enough that they both played for their franchise. one of the luckier franchises in sports over the last 30 years to get.
Sidney Crosby just never ceases to
Yeah,
amaze.
we've spoken about Crosby at length on here. Everyone knows how much I love him.
Yep. And, and
So,
and and I don't know. It's just what he's done for the game, what he's done for Canadian hockey
yeah.
specifically, what he's done for the city of Pittsburgh, and to be surpassing names like Mario Lemieux
Yeah.
and the legacy that they had just shows
And both players have only played for that one franchise, so it's not just in Penguins history, it's he's passed them for more
which you
assists.
don't see a lot anymore.
Obviously Lemieux had a lot of injury things, but that's still this is probably the second best player that's ever lived. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, that's pretty crazy. But good for him. Elsewhere, the Buffalo Sabres have won a hockey game.
Holy
Not only
smokes.
that, they've won two.
And like some decent teams.
We are absolutely shitting on them last week, like
Listen,
roasting them. And I believe that night they won that night.
they did like 7-1.
They beat the Islanders 7-1 that night.
And then they beat,
And then Friday night they beat Chicago 6-2. So not really the two greatest teams on earth, but
didn't they have another win recently?
did they play yesterday? They beat St. Louis 4-2
That's what it
yesterday.
was. I watched that game a
Yeah.
little bit. I caught the third.
Yeah. So there you go.
St. Louis isn't a team to laugh at. Like that's a
No,
decent team to
no, they're
beat.
a solid NHL team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they
And
were
they've
in
been good
control.
since Montgomery's been there.
Yeah.
So Buffalo three in a row after getting absolutely shat on by us and the rest of the hockey world.
Buffalo
So
get the parade ready.
maybe dial her back a bit, but
They're gonna go undefeated.
okay. They beat three teams that aren't in the playoffs right now, so
Claw your way up the ladder.
whatever you say. Yeah. So, hopefully it works out.
Buffalo,
We don't want to
hold
see
out.
shit forever.
Be kind to one another.
Yeah. You got the Bills to tide you over for a little bit, all
Yeah,
right?
relax.
Yeah. Okay. Elsewhere, Dallas has been fined $100,000 for violating the CBA because they held an optional
They had a
practice on
skate.
Boxing Day. According to the CBA, you are not allowed to hold any. The players have to have December 24th, 25th, and 26th off altogether. It can't be, it doesn't matter if it's optional, they can't be skating for those 3 days.
Can they do it on if there's no coaching, can they be there if they want to just
I don't know
skate?
I don't have the specifics.
Like I get
I
it.
think the Leafs had something like this last year. I think it
They're
was last
human
year.
beings. I understand.
Yeah.
Like genuinely I understand. They're humans. If they want to go for a skate, if it's optional and and like there's not the unspoken,
Yeah.
it's optional but it's not really optional. If
That's the
that's
thing.
not
How do you judge that?
yeah. So I understand both sides of the page here. I don't know. How do you solve a solution to this? Is it just hard no? And what was the fine?
A
$1,000?
100,000.
It was a
Yeah.
100,000. Okay, that's not chump change. Fair enough.
But for a person who probably owns the team, who's probably a billionaire or at least 100 millionaire.
So I don't know.
Yeah. It's not really.
Slap on the
Yeah.
wrist.
Um, yeah. Listen, like, what if you're Matthews and you're trying to get back from an injury and you want to go for a
Can
skate?
you go for a private skate?
That's like it's kind
If
of.
there's no coaching staff there, can you do it?
Yeah. I don't know. I don't
I
know
would
the
imagine so.
I don't know the rules.
Also, how do they find this shit out?
But if Dallas like said we have an optional skate if you want to go, but then they can't know behind the scenes because they're not there to know if Dallas is saying it's optional, but it's not actually optional. But if it was optional and only a few players were there, then you know it was optional.
I want to know how they catch wind of this stuff first of
Yeah,
all. Like, how does that even happen?
somebody's a snake. I don't know.
Anyway, not a massive deal, but it is like
Yeah, it was
okay,
just
this is
not really that big of a deal. But obviously it's part of the CBA, so the players obviously put that in there. The PA put that in there for a reason.
and I get it
Yeah,
because it lets players go home to travel and not feel any pressure to you can't go home for Christmas,
yeah.
but You better be back here on December 26th.
Yeah, yeah,
I get it. Discourage that. I
yeah,
think that's healthy.
yeah.
But if somebody wants to skate in their backyard pond, can they do so? You
Well,
got
that's different. I'm
drones.
sure that's different.
You got these
You can do whatever
drones
you
watching
want.
them.
You can do whatever you
UFOs in
want in
New
your own time.
Jersey. There's aliens in New Jersey. They're informing on practices.
I would imagine that it's at the team facility.
Yeah,
Like you can't be at a team
I imagine
facility. I
that's
think
probably.
that's probably what it is.
What if there's where was it? Dallas?
Dallas.
There's no outside ice. Where do you want them to go? They can't go on a pond.
I don't know what to
I
tell
got
you.
kids in the backyard near my parents' place. You saying that Sydney couldn't drop by and make some life changing
Fake
conversations?
ice. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what to tell you. All right, a couple other things before we get to the two things we really want to talk about.
Hmm.
Pedersen and Hughes are both out for Vancouver. I believe it is Pedersen who's only out a week, and Hughes is week to week.
Um,
I could be wrong there though.
guess who I'm saying is going to lose every game until they're back? Specifically, Quinn Hughes. Patterson's nice to
Yeah,
have.
Hughes and Hronik are both out right now.
Like
That's tough on the back end.
that's a shell of a team at
Yeah,
this point. Hammer betting against the Vancouver Canucks if you're into betting.
they almost won the other night. They only lost in overtime to Seattle, so and they were up as well. Seattle scored three in the third to
Oh
tie it.
yeah, I saw
It was
this.
4-1.
Yeah,
So probably depends on the opposition, I would say.
yeah.
I don't think Pedersen is the long term. I think it was just a
I
week.
think they said yeah, he's
Yeah.
considered more day to day,
Yeah.
where
Hughes is
Quinn
week to
Hughes is
week.
week to week.
Yeah. So that does not yeah, that's your top two defensemen out for a bit. I
Who
don't
is
know.
like on a point per game
Yeah.
pace.
I don't know uh how long Hronik has until he's back because he's been out a while now.
Yeah,
But that's your first pairing.
that doesn't feel good
Yeah, that's not.
when you already have the team under a microscope.
Yeah,
Frankly,
yeah. Obviously, there's a lot of drama. We talked about that last week too. We won't get into that.
don't need to.
No need to get into that. PD and other stuff. Uh, Sticking to Western Canada, Jeff Skinner was healthy scratch the other night.
As he should be.
Are we surprised? Not really.
He sucks. What is he doing? He was okay in Buffalo. He absolutely sucks on the Oilers. I don't know if it's just not the right team for him. I don't know if it's the line he's playing on because I think he's fourth line at this point. He maybe has one goal this year.
There might be a reason why Jeff Skinner has never made the playoffs in his career.
Because he's not that good.
There might be a reason. We're going to talk about it with the World Juniors a little bit here.
Okay.
Canada has gotten away from making the players the way they used to make players.
In what way?
I think Jeff Skinner would be prime example.
Okay.
Is Jeff Skinner Canadian? I believe he is. Let me
Mm,
double check that for a second. He could be American.
regardless, give me a little generalized. What do you mean we're not making the
Jeff
same
Skinner is
players?
Canadian.
Okay.
Markham, Ontario. There you go.
Gross. No offense, Markham. Just kidding.
Here's
Offense.
what I think. This is a prelude to the World Juniors talk.
Okay. Segue.
Other countries have had to catch up to Canada for a long time when it comes to hockey.
Yeah, probably the last history, all of history.
The US was probably the first one to take strides. They started the development program. The college game has gotten a lot better.
You've had them win some finals
And just like
against
development stuff.
really good Canadian teams. They've
Yeah,
won some
but
finals.
like take away the pro or like even the World Juniors, take that away.
Okay.
Before that, the development stages of the game, the US pumped a lot of money into it. Obviously, Gretzky playing in LA was a big factor, so you got teams from further down south, so you had more people playing the game. And that was a big factor because we already had people from Minnesota, Massachusetts, Michigan, northern places that did a decent amount of people play hockey.
Already playing the game because it's frozen
But
tundra.
now you've got a bigger pool of players to choose from, and the U.S. has more population to begin with. And then so now they've caught up. in terms of producing talent. They've caught up.
Yeah.
Um, there's other things that they're not quite on the same level. I don't think anyone will ever touch Canada in because of it's just can't. This is Canada's sport. And maybe there might be certain generations where we're not the best, but we will never not be in the conversation. We will never not be one of the two or three best.
To use like an analogy, it's you've accumulated so much hockey capital in Canada
Yeah,
and that generational information that's
yeah.
just been passed forward. You have so many superstars that have kids and are running hockey schools and live in Canada and enjoy being here that are transitioning all of that knowledge into youth programs for so long, and it's concentrated itself. Just think of it as an accumulation of hockey capital per se.
Now, okay, so the U.S. has done that. I think European countries have seen that. You see Russia. Russia never had good goalies. Russia has, if Russia wasn't doing what they're doing in the political landscape and we're playing in international hockey tournaments right now, they'd have. People talk about the U.S.'s goaltending. Russia's goaltending is even better.
Top four goalies in the world,
In and
arguably.
around there,
Arguably.
in and around there, right?
Yeah.
Uh, Finland's gotten a lot better. Finland is a lot more consistent. Finland used to have some good teams, and then they would get bad, and they would get good, and they would get bad.
Hmm.
Sweden is consistently in the mix
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
Russia, US, and Canada now.
Hmm.
Consistently. Sweden at the World Juniors. Sweden didn't lose a round robin game at the World Juniors for like a decade.
Hmm.
They're in the mix. These countries are in the mix. And that's not to say they completely caught up. The US is probably the only one that's in Canada's tier. But other countries are catching up. Other countries are doing things differently. I think Canada saw, especially the US, because the US is the closest to them,
Hmm.
and they saw this. There's a big skill development thing. Was the big thing in the US. And that's great. It's entertaining. It creates more offense. It's fun to watch. It grows the game. Fantastic. But when it comes down to it, that isn't what wins when it matters. Hockey is still hockey. It might not be as physical as it used to be. There's a lot more skill involved, and more skilled players are in a lineup than there used to be.
And to speak to your point about goaltending, it's harder to score
It's harder to
goals.
score goals. Goaltending is better everywhere.
Hmm.
Canada saw that, and I think they thought we need to do that, and they didn't need to do that. I'm not saying you should evolve, and you should keep things status quo. Skill development is very important.
Hmm.
But Canada, the way they were doing things already, didn't have a lack of skill. What Canada had was they're still producing the best players. If you look at the draft year to year, yes, the US is catching up. But if you look at the first pick, most years it's still a Canadian player. If you look at the top five, most years it's still dominated by Canadian players.
Hmm.
There's a few outliers here and there, but you look at the picks that come in that are generational or high end. Celebrini's high end Canadian. Bedard's high end Canadian. McDavid's high end Canadian. Power was a high pick Canadian. They're still mostly Canadian. There's a few in there, like Matthews American. There's still a few. You've never had an issue creating talent.
No.
What divides Canada from other countries was hockey IQ.
Hmm.
And the game is going, not just Canada as a whole, as it going away from that, which is disappointing.
And not even just like individual super high hockey IQ, overall average.
Yes,
Every single
exactly.
player had a very high hockey IQ.
The players that are coming through now, Robertson is an example of that. Skinner is an example of that. He's been in the league a long time, but maybe when he was coming through, guys like if you remember Nazem Kadri coming through, he was a skill player coming through,
Yeah.
and he decided he needed to adapt his game if he wanted to play at the NHL level because he had played a couple of years up and down Marley's Leafs. It's not really working out. I need to change something. People aren't telling kids at a young enough age now you need to add stuff if you want to be successful. It's all skill now. If you're skilled, you're going to be great. You're going to be this phenomenal player. There's going to be a few guys that are outlandishly talented that you're the best player on your team. You're great, but there's going to be players on that behind those players that are super talented players, but are not that high end, and they don't have other things to fall back on that is gonna keep them having a job in the NHL long term. And what I've seen from the past couple World Juniors tournaments, we're going to get into that from Canada. It's all skill, it's all perimeter play. That's not how you win. But when
Ye-
it comes down to it, hockey will still stay hockey. When it matters most, teams know we need to play good defensive game. We need good goaltending. We need 200-foot players, whether you're a defenseman, a center, a winger. It does not matter. The game is never going to go away from that. You need physicality. You need to go in the
yeah.
dirty areas to win.
It's interesting because I don't know if you saw this, but the play McKenna made the other night where he's beside the net, he goes for the highlight reel between the
Yeah.
legs. It speaks to exactly this.
Yeah.
Was there a better play available? And I'm not even saying there is, but I'm looking for the between the legs. He's 17.
And this is I'm not saying you need to know that you need to do this at 15, 16,
Mhm.
but somebody needs to tell you when you're at CHL, NCAA level, you aren't going to be Connor McDavid.
Yeah. You might
If
be
you
the
want to keep a spot in the league, you have enough talent to make the league, but you have enough intangibles to stay in the league long term.
you might be the Connor McDavid of Mark Ontario, Jeff Skinner, but you're not going to be the Connor McDavid
Exactly.
of the world or of the
And
NHL
Jeff Skinner has,
specifically.
speaking on Jeff Skinner's never nailed down a spot. He's had seasons of, okay, he scored a bunch of goals this year, but then the next year he's terrible.
Hmm.
There was one year he scored 40 goals in Buffalo. I don't think he hit 20 the season after that. So it's just like up and down. He's just an example. And maybe we dive
Not
in.
to pick on Jeff
Not
Skinner,
just, yeah, listen, it's not to,
single him
nothing
out.
against Jeff
It's
Skinner.
an overall
Yeah.
Hockey Canada issue.
It's a hockey, I think hockey as a whole, but Canada's fallen into that trap.
We've begun chasing what other teams are doing instead of kind of dictating what excellent hockey
We
looks like.
we win. How we play is how you win. Other teams are trying to replicate how we play in order to win, to beat us.
It's got me reflecting on the Four Nations Cup team and just how you have some of these picks that,
Don't seem high end talent,
yeah,
but they
that
know
seem
how to play a role.
bingo. And so you're starting to kind of see maybe there was a little bit over criticism of some of these talent guys that weren't chosen and the roles that a Pareko is going to play, a role that a Jarvis is going to play. People that are seemingly out of left field that are addressing exactly what you're
Yeah.
describing.
And I don't think Canada at a professional level that hasn't changed.
No.
If you look at this team plus the previous Olympic teams, World Cup teams, they didn't they had guys in there that they knew, yes, this guy is a star player on his team, but when it comes down to it, he'll play a lesser role for his country because he's capable of doing it and he's going to do whatever it takes to win.
It it's it, this is honestly why I was a little bit surprised John Tavares didn't make the team, or would have liked to have seen him
Yeah,
because you've seen him this year specifically.
I think that's just an age factor.
I agree,
Yeah,
but it's the sentiment of he's willing to do
yeah,
what's asked,
yeah,
and his hockey IQ is high.
yeah,
He's not scoring highlight reel goals like he was in the
yeah.
World Juniors, where he took every single shot that one shootout, like, and
No, that was Tays.
was that
That
Taves?
was Tays. Yeah.
Okay, Tavares still.
Tavares scored that hat trick in against the U.S. that New Year's Eve game the one year.
Oh yeah.
That was the year they Eberle scored the tying goal against Russia in the semifinal with like 10 seconds left.
Right. Um, but just like the level of adapting, the level of what do
Yeah,
I need? What does my role need to be here to win
yeah.
the game?
And it's completely dependent on the players. Some players, like Tavares, probably didn't need to do that when he was 18, 19,
Hmm.
because he's been a very strong player in the NHL, but now he's in his 30s. Now, granted, Tavares has always been the type of player that needed those things in his game, and he kind of learned that at a young age. He did have those things, so he was still successful. But usually, like a guy like Pacioretty, We spoke on Kadri. Kadri learned if I'm going to do it, I got to do it.
And then once for Kadri specifically, once he learned those things, the rest of his
The
skill
offensive
game,
game popped off.
oh my
Yeah,
gosh, it still
yeah,
is.
exactly. So yeah, it's not to pick on Jeff Skinner here. It hasn't worked out in Edmonton.
I don't like Stu Skinner. I don't like Jeff Skinner.
Don't not like them. You just like,
I love the stash. I hate the goalie.
yeah, we're not getting into him.
Okay.
The storyline with Skinner got healthy scratched, and many people seem to think this is big news. It really isn't.
Shouldn't be. If you've
Yeah,
been watching or even
yeah,
just playing along with their stats
yeah,
and his stats and overall some highlights, he's never there.
yeah,
There's no point to him being on the team.
yeah. So maybe a segue into the World Juniors here.
What's going on? Latvia?
So let's start.
Latvia.
Let's start before
Germany?
Latvia. Let's start before Latvia. So Canada opened on Boxing Day
Yeah.
in the World Juniors. They played Finland,
Got a dub.
and I thought it was a solid performance.
Sure.
Finland's not an easy team to play against.
Nope.
They got a shutout. They didn't look great in the third, but the first two periods they looked very good,
George was good.
very solid. George was fantastic.
Looks composed, looks clean.
Yep.
And I mean, not to parrot like a lot of the conversation around George, but it's just true.
It's true. He's a very good goalie.
Yeah.
He's played very well. He just looks calm, square to the puck.
He's never sprawling. He's
No.
always in position.
Yeah. So, and then the same day, Sweden won their opening game. The U.S. won their opening game. The following day, the night we were at the Leafs game, Canada played Latvia.
Sorry, who?
We didn't
W-
obviously didn't watch this game.
Is that somewhere in Australia? Where's Latvia?
Um, Canada didn't score an even strength goal against Latvia. They
What a
scored a
joke.
shorthanded goal in the second, conceded a power play goal in the third, scored a power play goal to retake the lead at 2-1, and then conceded a power play goal to tie the game. Latvia took it to overtime. They went to a shootout. The shootout went 8 rounds, and only one goal was scored the entire shootout. So all that
Skill.
skill and talent we raised that's supposed to help us win, where the fuck was it? Against, no offense to them, but it's one of the weaker teams in the tournament.
And you have guys who are producing in the in the OHL or in the W.
CHL,
Yeah.
as a whole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got Raykopf. You've got Cowan.
There's plenty of guys here, plenty of talent. Again, we didn't see the game, so we don't know.
No.
We can only assume who started at net that game. It wasn't
George.
It wasn't George.
No.
Whoever it was. I know pre-tournament they were actually talking about Canada's goalies a lot, and all three seemed to be good options. And that's not to say it's entirely his fault. He only scored 2 goals against Latvia. He should be scoring more goals against Latvia.
Go ask 6K how it's like to have a team play really bad in front of you and then you get criticized.
Yeah. I'm sure they probably outshot them by a lot.
I would imagine.
Outshot them by a lot, so he's probably sitting around the whole game, and they didn't put the puck in the net. They didn't put the game away as early as they should have. And then, of course, last night they played Germany. Again, it was a struggle. The first 2 periods was kind of an even game.
Yeah. It was 1-1 heading into the third, I think.
It was 1-0.
1-0. Okay.
Bonk scored on the power play in the first.
Yeah.
But the shots were very even. It was Canada probably helped a little bit more of the play, but the shots were even. It was pretty even. George had to make some saves. Canada came alive in the third and took over. They were the much better team in the third period, but that's where it should be for 60 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's saving grace here, specifically for Canada here. Is George.
Yeah.
Now, I think we all can agree that George is the starter now.
Yeah.
But Canada hasn't conceded an even strength goal in this tournament yet.
Well,
conceded 2 power play goals against Latvia, a shutout against Finland, a shutout against Germany.
And especially given the teams that they have to face now, you've got
the
US on the New Year's Eve. That should absolutely should be George.
Yeah. George is the guy. I think we can all agree on that.
Mm-hmm.
The one good thing that I like about it is we kind of talk about 200-foot game. They have been solid defensively. Now it's not the best competition. I understand that,
It's still you need to look good. If you're solid defensively, you need to look absolutely stunning against weaker teams like
but
Germany and
Fuji's
Latvia.
point being, 3 games in, you haven't conceded an even strength goal.
Positive.
That's a positive.
It's a
That's
positive.
solid defensive play with solid goaltending. That's what you want to see. If you remember the last Olympics NHL players played in, Team Canada didn't light teams up.
No.
It was very low scoring. Price was in net. Unbelievable goaltending. Very good defensive play. They very rarely conceded goals, and that's how they won that tournament. And that's how you win knockout hockey, playoff hockey. That's how you win.
And I understand, like, there's an enormous amount of pressure on Canada every
Exactly.
single year
Yeah.
there is, and everything is nitpicked. Everything is put under a microscope because you're Canada, and the expectation isn't let's see how far we can do. Oh, look at how well we're playing. Look at these redeeming. It's you need to go win gold.
Yep.
It is extremely tough for 17 through what 21-year-olds,
20.
20-year-olds to go and be like, if you don't win this tournament, it's a failure.
Yeah.
When the level of talent is increasing, when you have to speak to the development of the game around the world,
Yeah.
it's getting better. So I understand the pressure and how games aren't going to be the Latvia you're about to go run through 11-0.
Yeah.
I get that.
Now, the offensive side of the game, we talked about, we just spoken about this the skill thing and compared to the hockey IQ thing.
Hmm.
Again, I don't think it's a bad thing to want to raise your skill level, but
Sure.
you still need the hockey IQ.
You need both.
You
If you,
need the hockey IQ more than you need the skill.
yeah, because you don't need the goals to look pretty.
Yeah,
You need the goals to happen, though.
exactly. Look at a guy like Zach Hyman, who should be on Team Canada's Four Nations team. Look at a guy like Sam Reinhart.
It's never pretty
Look at a guy
goals.
like Sam Bennett, Brad Marchand.
Yeah, I think Hyman's the best example.
But just how the guys
Yeah,
are on that team that fit that type of
mold.
description,
Yeah,
right?
positioning, just being in the right place,
Now,
doing the work.
historically, Team Canada very rarely takes players on their World Junior team under the age of 18.
Correct.
The players they do take are freaks. We're talking McDavid, we're talking McKinnon, we're
McKinnon.
talking Crosby.
I think Nylander was on his team at
But he was
17.
Sweden,
Yeah.
so that's not the same. Talking,
So I'm giving kudos to your blonde
but
boy over there.
I'm telling you, Team Canada historically does not take. I'm not even sure McKinnon made it as a 17-year-old. I don't think he did.
I think he might have. I think he did.
I don't think he did.
Okay.
Celebrini never played in the World Juniors.
That's nuts.
Bedard played.
Yes, he did.
Bedard's one example, just a freak that made it to the team as a 17-year-old.
And looked really good.
And usually the guy that does make the team ends up looking terrific.
It was the narrative. It was look at this 17-year-old, and he showed up to it. It wasn't like it was a Crosby.
McKenna made the team as a 17-year-old. Now, this is no knock on Gavin McKenna.
Mm-hmm.
Gavin McKenna is going to be a phenomenal hockey player.
Mm-hmm.
He isn't just like, he's not a 17-year-old. He just turned 17.
He was 16.
He was 16
recently.
He just turned 17 years old. He's not even draft eligible in 2025. He isn't getting drafted until 2026. And he's on Team Canada's under 20 World Junior team.
So
this is my point. The talent level isn't. Maybe I won't say the talent level. The talent level from line 1 to line 4 is going to be as high as it's ever been.
Yeah.
But it's know-how players that are going to help you win when you come up against teams that are on par or better than you. Because you can't think any other way. The U.S. is a more talented team than Canada right now.
Absolutely there.
From top to bottom.
And the results are showing it. Playing the same teams that Canada are, they're destroying them.
Now, like I said, we touched on some positives because it's not all negative.
Mm-hmm.
Defensively, goaltending, it's been good. But now you're playing the U.S. here. The talent level is going to be a lot higher, And yes, you have maybe you have the structure and the goaltending to deal with it, but you're going to have to score some goals because you're not going to shut them out.
No, they're too good for that. And if you're taking stupid penalties,
Exactly.
which frankly
Now, granted,
Canada
now
has
granted,
done.
don't get me started on IIHF refereeing. Don't get me started on that.
You
My
mean
my
the tripping over each other and Canada gets a penalty? Maybe something like
my
that?
blood boils watching international hockey. It just does. It's both ways. It's not even just against us. It's both ways. I
Mm-hmm.
can't believe the officiating, and I know that's the way they're told to do it. It's just
Sure.
like this is a hockey. This is fucking soft ass nonsense. You need to score more than 3 goals against Germany. You need to score more than 2 goals against Latvia. You need to put your fucking balls on the table and say we are better than you. We're gonna run you out of this building.
If I and I'm a little torn now. I think you need going into the US. You needed them to be like a little nervous. What are they? They're gonna go in confident, and you have a confident US team being like, we're about to embarrass these Canadians.
Now, don't speak so soon. You want to get away from Canada here? You want like still have a couple more things on Canada.
Up to you. Player's choice.
The U.S. lost to Finland yesterday, so don't speak so soon here.
Compelling.
Because the U.S. isn't free of the same problems that Canada has.
Compelling.
You still need to play a certain way to win.
Yes, you do.
And it's interesting that Canada's best game and biggest win came against the best opposition they've played so far, whereas the US's best opposition was their only loss. So the US beating up on the bad teams, but when they play a solid, structured team, they struggle a little bit.
Are we in for a double IHF Finnish team winning gold?
It's possible. You never know. Finland's been had some very good World Junior teams over the past decade.
We'll see.
My point being, the U.S. isn't free of those problems either.
No.
Now, again, this isn't pro hockey. There's going to be years they're kids. But I'm saying what we've seen from Team Canada as a whole. Get to the net. Get pucks to the net sometimes.
Do you think the last two games have been a bit of a wake up call?
Maybe a little bit.
It's gonna have to be.
Maybe a little bit because you're not shutting teams like the U.S. out every night. Sweden out every night. The Czechs look good.
Yeah.
I know it's with weaker opposition in the other group, but the Czechs are undefeated. The Swedes are undefeated. The U.S. is not going to be easy. You caught Finland on the opening night. Maybe Finland wasn't fully there yet, and you played a solid game. We played a solid game here.
Mm-hmm.
I think it could be a very good game tomorrow night, Canada U.S.
I think it's gonna be exciting. It's gonna be fun to
It'll be
watch.
exciting.
Now we have a murder mystery party while this is going on, but
Listen,
we're gonna be checking in. We're
yeah,
gonna kind of
listen.
have this on both
Let's get
floors.
the murder mystery party started early. Elise play tomorrow afternoon as well at 1 o'clock. So
Is there a 1 o'clock? Oh, thank
yeah.
goodness.
Um.
Sick of missing Leafs games.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, Latvia won again today. They beat Germany in overtime today. So good for them.
Maybe it's not just criticizing Canada.
Yeah.
There's some elements of give
Yeah.
credit where credit's due
Give
of
credit.
teams that are
Exactly.
growing their programs.
Exactly. So yeah, I don't think the U.S. is gonna run us over. They're still the more talented team out of the two.
Mhm.
But I think the U.S. has a lot of the same issues that we have. But specifically on us for Canada, you got to go to the hard areas. It's not being done. The power play is just a lot of like I'm seeing like I don't want to be overly critical. He's a Leafs prospect, but what I see from Cowan on the power play, I haven't been impressed with.
No,
It's a lot of just get the puck and shoot it at shin pads. Yeah, you want to get pucks to the net. You can't just shoot whatever.
it's
You need to
the
get looks.
it's the Pee Wee hockey single A
Yeah,
coaching of just shoot the puck. It just doesn't work that way anymore.
and
Not at
it's a
high
lot of and
levels.
even when we do get an opportunity for point shots, a lot of times you're taking a point shot. There's nothing in front of the
You
goalie.
need traffic.
There's
It's going to
nothing
be a
there.
tip, or you got to take away
Whether
vision.
it's power play, 5-on-5, whatever it is, just what I've noticed and in what I've watched.
Yeah,
There isn't a lot of traffic in front of the goalie. You gotta get to the dirty areas. How do we not know this by now?
it seems pretty fundamental. Of like this is just the way the game is. Even at
Yeah.
even at young ages,
Uh,
it's you need tips. You need to because the goalies and goalie coaching
yeah.
is this is butterfly hockey. They're going to be in the right
Yeah.
position,
You're gonna be square to the puck.
and every single defensive
Yeah.
coach is think about it as a 2-on-1. You count on your goalie to make the save number one.
If the goalie can see the
Take
puck,
yeah
they're most likely gonna save it.
yeah unless it's a absolute sniper,
Yeah.
but that doesn't
Especially a point shot. If you're shooting from the blue line, the goalie can
lots
see
of
the puck,
time,
he's gonna save it.
lots of time.
Yeah. For the most part.
Yeah,
It's gonna be a few outliers, but for the most part.
yeah.
Now, granted, it's funny. We talked about that Germany game a little bit. The whole second period might as well have been 5-on-4, 4-on-4, whatever it was, or whatever way it was, because both sides just took penalty after penalty, and there were no goals in that period.
Yeah.
It's just strange. The World Juniors is so strange. Like it's just such
And it's
outliers.
why it's like you can't treat it as like a pure
Yeah,
prospecting tournament
yeah,
because it is seemingly a different game at points.
yeah. And so we touched on the U.S. The U.S. has dominated elsewhere, but they did lose to Finland last night. I watched the overtime there, uh, and Finland got it done 3-3. The U.S. pretty much had the puck for like the first 3 minutes of overtime, and it wasn't even 3 minutes. It was a minute and 46 seconds in, but it felt like forever.
This is making for a very interesting finish to
So
the group stages.
the U.S. had the puck. Like Finland didn't touch the puck, and it looked like okay, the U.S. is going to score. Like this is not looking
Inevitable.
good. And then Finland gets the puck. Uh, who was it for the U.S.?
So,
Whoever it was, one of the big guns,
yeah.
one of the Boston College guys, lost position of the puck and kind of laid out to get the puck back, and then got beat, and it was on man rush the other way. Finland scored right off of it, so it's like didn't barely touch the puck, and they got it done. So Finland's no easy out. That's why that was a good win in the first game for Canada, and I actually was impressed with our first game.
Yeah, I was too.
Yeah. But then obviously the Latvia stuff and the Germany game didn't look overly fantastic. So we'll see what happens. We touched on a little bit in Group B, Czechia and Sweden, rolling everyone over there.
Kind of expected in that
Yeah,
group.
that's a big game in that group tomorrow as well.
What
Czechia,
time's that
Sweden.
one at?
I believe it's before at 5:30.
Okay.
5 starts at 5. So that'll be on in the background. I wanted to touch on this one. Uh, the Slovakia Kazakhstan game today. So Slovakia goes up 3-0 after the first period. About midway through the second, Slovakia's now up 4-1. Kazakhstan gets one back late in the second. So it's 4-2. 4-2 going into the third. With about 3.5 minutes left, Slovakia's on the power play. Kazakhstan hits the turnover. Brutal turnover at Kazakhstan's blue line by Slovakia. Kazakhstan goes the other way, scores shorthanded to make it a 1-goal game. And with 30 seconds left, Slovakia's on the power play again. And the same thing, they turn the puck over at the blue line,
That's
and
hilarious.
Kazakhstan goes the other way and ties the game
That's
shorthanded with 30
hilarious.
seconds left. Now it goes to overtime. Slovakia does end up winning the game in overtime.
Mm-hmm.
But Kazakhstan severely outgunned no matter who they're playing against. They got outshot like 40-15 or something. And to bring it to overtime with two shorthanded goals, what a game.
Yeah.
The juniors is just fun games. That game and then the Finland US game the day before, the best two games of the tournament by far.
Especially when it's like, listen, these are non-traditional hockey markets. Maybe Slovakia, sure, but
Yeah.
like Kazakhstan, I think I've ever seen them play. I was
Yeah,
working during the game, so I came up when you arrived and
yeah.
you had mentioned this. I'm like, oh my gosh.
I just saw it.
But
Got the update and turned the game on for overtime.
it's so cool.
Yeah.
It's just cool for those players who maybe they're not going to make to the NHL, but to be kind of showing up and be able to put on a show because the Canadian crowds are good crowds.
Yeah.
That's really, really cool.
Yeah, so it was cool to see. Um, anything else in the World Juniors?
I'm just really looking forward to tomorrow's game. I
Yeah,
think it's going to be really
we'll see
fun.
what happens there. I'm not sure when the quarterfinals do start because New Year's Eve's a little later this year. It's on a
Well, it's still on the
Tuesday.
31st.
I know, but just like the day of the week, I mean.
Oh, okay.
It's on a Tuesday, so I'm not sure because usually the gold medal game's on a Sunday, but it'll be kind of tight to do it on a Sunday
Yeah.
this year. So I'm not sure what's going to happen there, but I believe that we're locked into a spot in the round robin because there's only 5 teams in each group and it's top four.
Yeah.
So um, it'll be interesting to see. I think the big thing with Canada and the U.S. or sorry, with Czechia and Sweden, whoever loses between the two will probably have to play. We'll have to play one of U.S., Canada, or Finland. They'll probably want to avoid that in the quarterfinal, right? So
That's
that's probably a big game for that group.
yeah.
And then uh, to get first here, first and second in Group A probably doesn't really move the needle that much. But whoever loses the Canada US game is probably more likely to get third because Finland plays Latvia. Now, obviously, Latvia's given a hell of a run, but
You never know.
Finland is still the
Likely.
stronger team.
Likely.
It will likely win the game, right?
Yeah.
So whoever loses Canada US is probably going to get third in the group, and will probably have to play either Sweden or Czechia in the quarterfinal. And there's going to be no easy games from then
No.
on, right?
No.
Canada lost to the Czechs in the quarterfinal last year.
Yeah.
So it's a big game. It's a big game in both groups. Obviously, if Latvia gets it done against Finland, then you never know. But
That makes things really
it would
fun.
make it interesting because that is the 2:30 game. So we got Latvia and Finland at 2:30, Czechia and Sweden at 5, and Canada US at 7:30. Now we also have the Leafs game at 1, so we probably won't maybe catch the end of the Finland Latvia game.
Yeah, go in
Yeah,
intermissions, whatever.
and then once the Leafs game's done, we switch over to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all I got there.
Okay.
Anything else?
No. That's it's a fun tournament every
Yeah,
year for different
yeah.
reasons.
Okay. Uh, hockey predictions for 2025.
Okay. I feel like I should start because I think you have way more than I
I
do.
do have a lot.
Okay.
What are Jack's hockey predictions for 2025? How many you got?
So I have 5 main ones.
Just 5?
I kept with 5
Okay.
main ones.
I have like almost 20, so.
This is why I thought I should start. Predictions. I think Montreal goes on a bit of a run.
Okay.
I
They make the
think
playoffs?
I don't think they make the
Okay.
playoffs, but I think they make a strong argument for we finally took a step. And we talked about this a little bit earlier in the season where it felt like that wasn't happening.
Yeah.
And it seems like Line has helped just put some force, put a little bit of oxygen into the
Yep.
lungs, and they're winning against some really good teams.
Yep.
They have Montembeault, who after a star-studded entrance and then a burnout, he seems to be returning and looking comfortable. I think Montreal is going to surprise a few people, and I don't think they make the playoffs, but I think they take some momentum and they finish the season strong.
Okay. How far out are they?
Very far out.
Let's see here. 35 points, and Ottawa has 40 points. They're the last wild card. 5 points.
I still think because
A
Ottawa,
lot of teams to pass to get there.
yeah.
Though. Yeah.
Second predictions. I think Sabres have hit rock bottom.
Okay.
I think it only goes up from here.
Okay.
Reason being, okay, you've got Montgomery here
So
now.
the shitbag teams are sticking.
I think you've got some shitbag teams that have hit the low.
Montgomery's Sabres.
Sorry, not Montgomery. Sorry, Buddy
Lindy Ruff.
Ruff. Sorry.
Yeah.
He's back. He's taken over the team. I think their lowest low. I think they just let out all the garbage, and they're like, we're bad, and we're frustrated, and they're all on the same page with that.
Yep.
There's no lying to them there. I watched the third period, and to be fair, it was one period, but the amount of effort that they were putting in, I think it's like, again, it's not going to be a glorious finish. They're not going to make the playoffs, but I think they're at least going to step towards being like, okay, we can at least be proud of the second half of our season.
Okay.
They got the frustrations out in the air, and I think they're going to move past it. I genuinely believe that.
Okay.
This next one's going to hurt.
It's gonna hurt. You can't hurt me.
I think Matthews is going to be in for more trouble.
Okay.
I think that re-aggravating his injury from not that many games back, something's wrong.
Okay.
And I think it's going to be a bit of a pressure point on the Leafs because I think he's going to be out either a couple more times and try and return, or he's going to have to take even more longer term time off. I just don't like that he was back for maybe a handful of games, and who knows what aggravated it, but he's now missing more games. I think it's going to be a lingering thing for the rest of the season.
Well, if it means he doesn't play for the U.S., I don't hate it.
Who knows? Honestly, like
If it means
genuinely, who
that
knows?
he's got to rest up for the rest of the season to be ready for playoffs, I'd rather him miss regular season to be ready for playoffs.
Understand where the bread's buttered, okay, Matthews?
LTIR cap stuff.
Shh,
Let's
shh.
get it.
We don't speak of these things.
Jack doesn't like it, but if it was in the Leafs' favor, he might.
Um, fourth prediction.
Okay.
Swayman's got his swagger back.
Okay.
He hasn't been great this season.
Yep.
His GAA isn't great. His save percentage isn't great. I know Boston's not great overall. Swayman's looking better and better. He seems to be having some momentum
Boston is better.
through December. They've been better, and I think Swayman's been a big part of that. His stats have improved a lot. I think Swayman's back, and I think he's going to finish out
Okay.
right where he finished last season. I think he's going to be a really, really strong goaltender, and I think he's been kind of put down a little bit, and he's finally got his stride again.
Okay.
You know what's next?
The Leafs are going to win the cup. Nashville's going to win the cup. Sorry.
Nashville's not winning the cup.
Fifth and final prediction.
Nashville is going to continue to implode.
Oh wow!
I think
You changed your mind, eh?
I think listen, I think the easy answer based on some recent performances have been like, okay, you do have some chemistry kind of for me. You're getting more to Stamkos, you're getting more out of some of these players that you acquired. I get it. I think Saros is an issue.
Marchessault has been buzzing actually.
Marchessault has been buzzing. You can see how they're finally getting some comfort. They're figuring each
They're
other
still
out.
not winning a lot though.
They're not winning a lot, and a lot of it's on Saros. And you don't have another really good option, and you're not going to trade and
But they're not
acquire.
good defensively either.
They're not.
Yeah.
I think they're going to continue to implode, and I think it's going to be really frustrating because you've got some guys at the tail end of their career, and this is a really important. This felt like this is our year to stack up, and this is our shot, and we're making the run this year. And I think it's burning, and I think it's going to continue to burn. Unfortunately, for my episode one predictions, yeah, I think they're going to continue to implode.
That's it. Nothing else.
And the Leafs win the cup.
Leafs win the cup. All right. I figured that would be one. Okay, are we ready?
I want to see if there's any overlap. I don't think there will be.
No. Mine are a lot more concrete predictions. Yours are kind of like
you probably have like trophy winners in there. Yeah.
Hockey predictions for 2025. The U.S. will win the World Juniors again, back to back for the first time ever. They've never won back to back.
I think that's a reasonable prediction.
But the U.S. team will implode at the Four Nations tournament.
Oh, talk to me. Why?
We've spoken about it.
Okay.
They do have a few guys in there. But I think the other teams have more guys on their rosters than the depth parts of the lineup.
Are you saying they're not making it even to the finals?
I don't think they're going to make the final.
Really? Wow.
I think the other three teams in the depth parts of the lineup have taken players that are used to those roles more and are willing to play those roles. The U.S. has guys like the Kachucks that is going to be extremely difficult to play against.
They're bringing firearms onto the ice.
But is Matt Kachuk going to play a bottom six role on this team? Fuck no.
No, because he's paired with his brother in Matthews on my fantasy league.
Brady Kachuk, maybe at the worst plays third line. Okay?
Yeah.
At the least. Matthews has a lot of injury trouble. Hughes has some injury trouble. Those are the two players on the U.S. that come remotely close to Canada's top end talent,
And they're hurting.
and they're hurting.
They're week to week. They're
So listen, that's the high end talent factor. Canada's got it. Not so much Sweden and Finland, but Sweden and Finland don't lack there.
no,
People don't sleep on those teams.
don't sleep on
Yeah.
Sweden. Do
Don't sleep
not
on
sleep on
either
Sweden.
team. Don't sleep on any of team
Yeah.
and all four teams in this tournament. Finland always comes to play. They might not have the flashiest roster, but they always come to play.
Okay. This is a fun prediction.
US implodes their four nations. That's all I got. There's no. It's just they're not going to
But
make the
they
final.
win World Juniors.
But they're going to win the World Juniors.
Okay.
Okay. My next one is the Toronto Maple Leafs do not lose in the first round of the playoffs.
Okay.
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 Take that. Take that. However you want to take it.
Now, we didn't lose first round last year.
Yes, we did.
Year before.
Yes, the year before we won.
Are they going to make it out of the second
I
round?
didn't say anything about the second round.
Okay.
I said
Okay.
they're not going to lose in the first round of the playoffs.
Okay.
The Battle of Ontario will return to the Stanley Cup playoffs this season.
Oh, that's fun. That is a fun idea. That'd be a fun series too.
You like that?
I love that
I'm
series.
just gonna leave that where it is.
Okay.
There's gonna be somewhere I'm gonna say it, and that's gonna stay where it is.
Let it cook.
Yeah.
Let it cook.
Mitch Marner and William Nylander will both reach 100 points this season,
I think that's a really attainable prediction, frankly.
and William Nylander will also reach 50 goals this season.
Okay, so he needs to pick it up just a little bit. He's doing okay. Where's he at
He's at like
goal-wise?
20, 22, 23, and they're not quite at the halfway point.
Okay.
So he's pretty much on par, on pace.
Okay. And he's going to stay healthy
And
the rest of the year. That's a
the
requirement.
points for Marner and Nylander are similar too. They're like right around there, halfway mark,
Okay.
where they're close to the pace of 100 points. And last but not least, in the Toronto predictions, Marner and Tavares will both re-sign in Toronto.
Maintain the core four.
I'm not gonna add anything else.
Any prediction on money for Marner?
No money predictions.
Okay.
Okay. The East. The New Jersey Devils will win the President's Trophy and then lose in the first round of the playoffs.
I love this. In true Keith fashion. In true Keith fashion, unbelievable offense, just crushing it. And then first round exit.
The New York Rangers will finish closer to the lottery than the playoffs.
This was almost in my predictions.
Yeah.
Where I also think they're not done shipping. I think you're going to see a big name move. I don't think it's going to be a high volume of players.
Yeah.
I think someone else is gone.
Yep. And the last team thing in the East is the Washington Capitals will reach the Eastern Conference Final.
Okay.
I'll give a little bit of reasoning behind that.
Get into it.
I think if you look at the Metro Division, I think Washington's the most well equipped to be successful in the playoffs. I think New Jersey's tons of talent, but they're not a big team. It's a lot of skill.
Yep. And once playoff hockey starts.
Once playoff hockey starts, we don't know. The Rangers, we know if the Rangers do figure it out and come up and make the playoffs, same thing. Small team, tons of skill. They do have a good goalie, but is their overall game going to be there? I think the only other, and then the rest of the Metro outside of Carolina is the Pittsburgh Islanders. If they even make it, they're going to lose in the first. They're not doing anything. Carolina is the only team I would worry about. But the only reason I'm going to say Washington is because Carolina has always played a playoff style system for the full 82 game season, and it's never panned out in the playoffs for them.
Yeah.
And that is probably more so on maybe they just need a little bit of a nudge of more talent.
Yeah.
To take them to the next level.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what it has to do. I think that would be a very good series, whether it's a first round, second round, whatever. Uh, I just think Washington's game translates very well to playoff hockey.
I agree.
They're a big team. They can hit. They have enough talent. They have the goaltendings there this year.
And they've good two-way talent.
Two-way talent. Tom Wilson. That's my reasoning.
Okay.
Go to the West. Very similar to New Jersey. Winnipeg will finish with the most points in the
Don't
West,
do it.
but will lose in the first round of the
No.
playoffs
No.
once again.
The Jets will fly. Why do you think they
The
implode?
same reasoning as New Jersey. I don't think their team is equipped for the
A lot of
playoffs.
centralized talent
Tons of
that
there's scoring talent.
maybe doesn't translate well to playoff hockey.
I think maybe the depth is probably translates a little bit better than New Jersey's.
Yeah, you have some younger guys. You have Perfetti. You have, what is it, Nemestikov.
Velarde, guys like that.
Yeah.
You're not. I just don't. That division, and there's just something about it. It's just something about Winnipeg in the playoffs isn't there.
You can survive pretty well with not incredible team.
Okay. And this plays in with the Winnipeg prediction.
Okay.
The Utah Hockey Club makes the playoffs and wins a round.
Okay. Okay.
I know you don't agree.
I think it's a stretch.
Listen,
I don't think they win a round.
it's the Stanley Cup playoffs.
I understand. I don't know if they have enough goal scoring to make that happen.
We'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
And goaltending.
Minnesota will miss the playoffs.
Unbelievable prediction. You think they're in that much of a dumpster fire?
No.
They're going to miss the playoffs?
Kaprizov's hurt right now.
Okay.
Kaprizov is a
Best player in the
massive
league right now?
chunk, probably the Hart Trophy frontrunner at the moment. He is a massive chunk of their scoring.
Eriksson Ek
They have
is
Listen,
underperforming
I don't think Minnesota's a bad team. Edmonton's gotten better.
than the beginning of the season.
From the beginning of
Yeah.
the season, Edmonton's gotten better.
Agreed.
Colorado's getting better and only going to get better. Dallas is only going to get better.
Correct. Jamie Benn has adjusted well with playing with Duchesne and
Winnipeg might slow down from the pace they were at, but they're not going to be bad enough that they're going to be really bad, especially with Hellebuck in there.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that Gustafsson is going to be able to sustain how well he's played. Vegas isn't going to get worse. Vancouver can only really get better.
For them,
Yes
it's can
and
they
no.
survive that long?
Yeah.
It really is injury
Yeah.
dependent for them.
With the injuries, we'll see.
Yeah.
Because I did this before.
You could see them slip out
Yes.
of a playoff spot.
If there was one team, Vancouver's the one.
Yeah.
And LA's game and the division that LA plays in is more favorable than what Minnesota's got.
Yeah.
Because Minnesota might be better this year, but they have a tougher division.
Correct.
And LA gets in because they play weaker teams, so maybe they do end up getting more points.
Okay.
That's my prediction.
That's wild.
If you actually look at the standings, I don't think it's that far fetched.
Okay.
Okay. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
This looks shaky now. It wasn't like this. It was a pretty big take before, but now with the injury, it's an even bigger take. My take was that Makar and Hughes both reach 100 points.
Makar seems very attainable.
It's going to be tough.
Where's Hughes at right now?
It's going to depend on how long Hughes is out for.
Is he at 40 points right now?
Hughes has 42 points in 34 games right now.
My God, that's insane. That's genuinely insane from a defenseman.
It's going to be tough. This was made before the injury. Makar has 45 and 37. I'll obviously stick to the Makar one.
Yeah.
It's going to be tough for Hughes. And it's going to be entirely dependent on how long he's out for.
Yeah.
But I made the prediction. I'm going to stick to my guns.
I like that.
Now, if Hughes is out for a month,
Wave it off.
yeah, like that's not.
That's a lot of games to
Yeah,
miss.
exactly. If Hughes is back in
2 weeks.
2 weeks, I'll stick to it.
Yeah.
This isn't too like outlandish. This is pretty. McKinnon will win the Art Ross and the Hart again. I think Kaprizov might miss some time and then maybe come back and slow down a little bit because his team around him is
Okay.
high end talent level like Colorado.
Being away can cause a big
Yeah, I don't think the
change.
Kaprizov injury is too long term.
What is he? What's injured?
I'm not I'm not entirely sure what the injury is.
Okay.
He's only missed a couple games so far.
Okay.
I Minnesota's going to have to slow down at some point. I think you can agree on that.
Yeah.
It's just how
How
much should they
much do
slow
they?
down?
Yeah. How much do they slow?
Because right now they're on 48 points. Utah's on 38 points, so it's a big prediction.
Okay.
But they don't necessarily have to go hand in hand here. That's just I said Utah's going to make it, and I said Minnesota's not. So
Utah's gonna win a round too.
Utah's going
That is a hot take.
to. Obviously, the McKinnon stuff isn't that outlandish. He won a Hart last year, and he's
Gonna
top of
win
the
it again.
league in points right now.
Yeah.
So okay, here's some fun ones.
Okay.
These are the last four are fun ones. Mikko Rantanen does not re-sign in Colorado and signs with a team in the East.
Okay. I agree. I think he doesn't resign in Colorado. Where he goes, I don't know. Do you think he wants like another? The reason being, he's talking money. He's not talking
Colorado
Stanley.
can Colorado can afford it,
Yeah,
and they've already won the
he's
cup.
talking money. He's
Yeah,
already won a cup. He wants to just get paid,
yeah,
and he's mentioned what he thinks he can get on the open market. That to me is a clear indication
yeah.
he's gone. Colorado, you're right. They can't
They're
pay the
up
money.
against it already with what he
So,
makes now.
any idea where he goes?
I'm saying the East because I think there are more teams in the East that might want a big guy who could put the puck in the net because there's a lot of more teams in the West that have that already.
I don't think it's like an Ottawa or Montreal. I don't think they can
No,
pay
no,
it.
no, no. It's still like a playoff team. I feel like you maybe could toss the Rangers in the mix for that.
How do you feel about Carolina?
I think it's possible.
I could see a Carolina.
I think there's some Finnish connection there,
It addresses a little
some
bit of what
Scandinavian connection.
you just mentioned. They want some more high end talent. They're going to need some more high
Yeah,
end talent.
I could see it.
I could see that.
I was kind of leaning more towards the Metro than the Atlantic, to be honest.
Okay.
But I'm just saying the East to be safe because I think a team like, with what I'm about to predict, a team like Boston might be in the mix.
That's a fun one.
Because my next prediction is Brad Marchand does not re-sign in Boston and signs with a team in the West.
Calgary?
I don't
Okay.
think it'll be Calgary.
You think he wants another cup?
I think he would at least want to be on a team that's in the hunt, in the mix.
I could see him in Calgary.
I don't think he'll go to
I could
Calgary.
see him in a Flames jersey.
I can promise you where he won't go.
Where's he not gonna go?
Vancouver.
Okay.
Boston might look at things and say maybe it's time to move on from the last
He's
generation.
beloved in the city. They need to move on.
They might think it's time to move on. Pasta can't carry the load forever here.
Nope.
So maybe Rantanen's in the mix.
Who gets to see?
My
Pause.
guess would be McAvoy.
McAvoy.
Yeah,
Okay.
that would be my guess. But yeah, Rantanen in like a Metro team,
Okay.
I could see. And then Marshall kind of fits the West. It's just more bruiser
He's gritty,
game.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it'll be a Canadian team.
It's not going to be Seattle. It's not going to be Utah.
No, no, no. Like
It's not going to be LA. I think you would hate LA. Just the city. I don't think you'd live there.
yeah, I could see him playing for a team like that isn't like a bona fide playoff team, but maybe like right under that.
What a,
Not like a young team that's bad.
what about a Minnesota?
I was gonna say like a Minnesota or a St. Louis.
Which, if you had the choice, you're going to do Minnesota. St. Louis, I agree, he would fit into the system,
He
but
could
I
get
don't
more.
think
He
he'd
could get
want
more,
to.
but he could get more money in St. Louis.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Interesting.
But there could be a little bit of hatred there because they did lose to St. Louis in the final 5 years ago.
I don't think he's a man to hold grudges, though.
Vancouver, I think he is holding a
Vancouver
grudge.
would.
Yeah,
Vancouver wouldn't
yeah.
hold him.
I don't think Vancouver would riot if they signed him.
Yeah.
But anyway, those two don't resign with their current teams and go to the opposite conference.
Interesting.
Are we ready?
Yeah.
Aiden Hill wins the starting job for Team Canada. Backstops them to win at the Four Nations, and then comes back and backstops Vegas to a Stanley Cup.
What? You have Vegas winning. Interesting. Okay. I don't think it's on a lot of people's radar. I think Vegas is often overlooked just because it's so much in the West. Everyone kind of discounts that
I don't
whole
get it.
conference. They're incredibly talented.
I don't get it.
Um,
They have talent. They know how to win. They
they've
have
done it
guys that get in the
before.
mix. Their decor is one of the strongest in the league.
You were talking Hannafin earlier.
They don't need extremely unbelievable goaltending to win.
No,
They just need solid goaltending. Don't lose the game for us.
it's a good call out. Just how overlooked Vegas often
They're
is,
the first.
until everyone does the
They're
trade
first
deadline
in the
stuff.
Pacific. They're going to be one of the top two seeds in the West.
Yeah,
They're going to have home ice.
and they're gonna just kind of walk through, and they have a relatively easy
And it's
path to.
Vegas. They're going to do something at the deadline. It's
Yeah,
fucking Vegas. You
they
know what they're going to do.
they have a pretty easy path to the finals.
It's at least the conference final
Yeah,
compared to the other division.
yeah.
Obviously, and if Edmonton is Edmonton from the playoffs last year, then that'll be a good series. Um, if they were to meet, of course. And my final prediction
Mm-hmm.
for 2025: Alex Ovechkin
Does he do it?
will finish the season in a dead tie with Wayne Gretzky's record, and will have to wait
Have to return.
until October
I
2025
love
to
that.
beat the
I
record.
hope so. I think that'd be so fun because it is a clicking talk or a ticking clock right now. To dead tie, it would be
He's
absolutely
25 away.
hilarious. That's a big ask.
25 away. I think it's possible.
It
I don't think
is.
it's like completely out of the realm of possibility.
It's not.
Like I think it's very attainable.
It is. Um. Hopefully, no more injuries. Hopefully, no more issues with the leg.
Well, if he's coming back after 40 days from a broken leg,
No, it's
if
nuts.
he bruises his pinky, I think he'll play through it. How many games has Washington played so far? 36.
So they've got four. So they've got
46
46 games left.
46 games. I think Ovi could
Scoring
easily
half
get
them.
more than 25
Scoring
goals in
roughly
46
half of them.
games. Yeah.
Okay.
But I said the Tide thing because that's fun.
Give him every empty netter available.
That's just fun. If he finished the season tied with Gretzky,
That'd be just such a
I
cool
think, and
narrative.
if Bettman was smart, opening night next season, Washington. Everyone's in the building.
Yeah.
Make it against Pittsburgh, so it's against Sid.
Yeah. they can go have a moment on the
Yeah.
ice. Two legends of the game.
Yeah. That's all I got.
Okay. Those are fun predictions.
We'll see what happens.
The trade ones I think are the most interesting.
Well, the free agent ones.
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
free agent ones.
I'm gonna screenshot it,
Okay.
so I still have them. Screenshot yours, so you still have yours,
Okay.
and we'll come back to it. This sheet here is from our first episode where we made our season predictions. I mean, I kind of made more than Jack because Jack didn't come prepared, but
Loose cannon.
yeah. So we'll look at those. First episode, we'll look at the 2025 stuff,
Okay.
and one of my predictions could be as early as next week because the World Juniors is one of my predictions. So
It's gonna be fun to see the overall team rankings here.
yeah.
Or
All right. Anything else?
Go puck yourself.
Do we want to do a question, or we didn't get the game
We didn't
yet?
get the game
I should
yet.
have got the game the
I
other day.
I think we kind of kibosh this until we get the game.
Should have got the game.
We tried
What are you waiting for?
we looked online and we couldn't get it until January 18th.
Why didn't you get the game?
I don't, it's a
You have
heck
a
of a
car.
it's a heck of a drive.
You have a car.
I don't have holiday vacation right now.
I'm just giving you shit.
Oh my. Go puck yourself. Anything else?
I didn't have anything else.
Okay.
Any non hockey stuff?
Um Honey mustard, underutilized condiment.
A very interesting, random thing to say.
I'm just a big fan.
Yeah.
Okay. Go Lions. Oh, they're on
Lions.
tonight.
They're on the night, but tonight's game is meaningless. Sunday night next week, if we don't see you before then, Detroit, Minnesota for first place in the NFC for the bye. Go Lions.
Bye-bye.